So there have been rumors floating around that the Nintendo Switch successor will not only be backwards compatible, but also capable of enhancing Switch games. Kind of like how some PlayStation 4 games are improved on PlayStation 5 with higher resolutions, frame rates, etc. Now, obviously this rumor should be taken with a grain of salt, but I can't help imagine what some Switch games would look like on the new and improved Switch 2, or whatever it's going to be called. I specifically looked at games that are being held back by the current Switch hardware, seeing how a next-gen patch could fix their shortcomings. Let's begin with both The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which are already great games in their own right, but they could be a little bit better with some slight improvements. While these games would look cool at 4K 60 FPS with ray tracing like this mod demonstrates, I don't think all these fancy bells and whistles are that necessary. At least not as much as a stable frame rate that doesn't dip in areas like the Korok Forest. Whether it be 60 or 30, I don't care as long as it's stable. It would certainly make Ultra Hand building feel a lot smoother. In fact, why not increase the amount of attachable objects on Switch 2? As of now, you can only connect 21 objects, but perhaps a next-gen patch could theoretically increase that amount? If so, I might return to my World's Longest Stick series. Remember that? Good times. Moving on to the best 3D Mario game of all time, Bowser's Fury. Just kidding, Sunshine's the best. Anyway, this game is kind of an oddball in optimization, as there are some frame drops whenever Fury Bowser shows up, which is quite often. It's the title of the expansion after all. Fixing these on Switch 2 would make these high-octane sections feel smoother, but why stop there? When playing the game in portable mode, it runs at 30 FPS instead of 60, so this would theoretically be an easy fix for newer hardware. And one more thing, these screen space reflections don't look that great, so either spruce them up on Switch 2 or replace them with full-blown ray-traced reflections. If they can pull off those graphical improvements while still maintaining 60 FPS, then we could potentially have the best-looking 3D Mario game on our hands. Oh yeah, imagine playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 4K 60 FPS. That's the dream! But if there's one thing we hope Ultimate could be enhanced with on Switch 2, it's rollback netcode. If you don't know what that is, it basically improves latency in online fighting games by treating both players' inputs as offline and their opponents as a remote player, with each local machine predicting what their opponent will do next. Thanks for the rundown, GameRant.com. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate does not support rollback netcode, but director Masahiro Sakurai said in a Famitsu article that they did inspect it during development, but passed on it because the side effects were too big. He didn't elaborate on that, but we could speculate that maybe the Switch wasn't powerful enough for it. There are already a few multi-platform fighting games that don't support rollback netcode on Switch, despite supporting them on other platforms. It makes me think that a Switch 2 enhanced version of Ultimate could potentially feature rollback netcode. Although if that's too much to patch into an already existing game, the best we can hope for is that it'll be in the next Smash Bros. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is a great remake of an already great Game Boy title, but there are just a couple of things holding it back from perfection. Because this is the Switch 2, dang it! We demand perfection! The biggest technical issue in Link's Awakening are these frame rate hitches that happen when transitioning from indoor to outdoor, sometimes between segments of the map. Digital Foundry discovered that increasing the GPU clock helps, so you gotta think that these frame rate hitches would almost go away with a significantly more powerful console. And one more thing, give us the option to remove the blur. If for some reason this can't be implemented on Switch, then put it on Switch 2. This mod demonstrates what it's like without the blur, and it looks just so good. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope is a visual treat, with beautiful animations and eye-popping colors. I sadly have not beaten it yet due to one major flaw: those loading times. I'm sorry, but I'm an adult with a job and a kid. I don't have as much time to play games as I used to, and I don't want to spend my limited playtime sitting through a bunch of loading screens between the game's numerous battles, especially ones that I'm going to repeat over and over again because I'm not very good. Seriously, if this game gets a patch on Switch 2 that significantly reduces these load times, I will play it to completion, I promise. Now I decided to lump 4 games all together here. The Musou titles, or rather Warriors games. Hyrule Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. These 4 titles all need to up that frame rate. Let's face it, when you're playing these fast-paced action games, you need a high and consistent frame rate for an optimal experience. The first Hyrule and Fire Emblem Warriors games are able to go above 30 FPS with the Switch docked, but they almost never hit 60. And in Fire Emblem's case, the resolution goes down from 1080p to 720. The latter 2 Musou games don't even have those options, and Age of Calamity suffers a lot, barely even hitting 30 FPS. Three Hopes is a much better experience, but it doesn't go up to 60 FPS. I sincerely hope that even if these games don't get patches on Switch 2, that they still benefit from the additional horsepower for higher and/or stable frame rates. The Xenoblade Chronicles games are massive experiences, with epic battles and large worlds. They're all pretty great on Switch, but they have one thing in common. They're kinda blurry. Admittedly, the last 2 releases are better optimized, but man, Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Man. This game had a dynamic resolution to maintain the frame rate, and it would sync as low as 360p in handheld mode, even lower I'm sure. This problem is less persistent on the latter releases, but if they could look consistently higher res on Switch 2, that would just be dandy. I wouldn't even mind if the frame rate stayed at 30 for these games as long as they looked good. So after I played Bayonetta 3, I wanted a new Nintendo console even more. This game just doesn't look or run as well as the 2 before it. The resolution is unclean and the frame rate is inconsistent. Heck, it's even capped to 30 FPS in some sections. It's not an unoptimized mess or anything, but I expected more from this franchise, and it's clear they were hitting the Switch's limits with this game. Therefore, I will be ecstatic if Bayonetta 3 receives a next-gen patch to address those shortcomings. I really feel like this game could shine with a more consistent frame rate during those intense battles, and maybe an upscaled 4K resolution. It'd be nice if all the Bayonetta games got those updates, but 3 is in dire need of them. Now, if I had to choose between an enhanced version of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and a new Mario Kart game, I'd obviously choose a new Mario Kart game, but I wouldn't sneeze at any improvements to MK8D on the side. Even the Switch version is a step above the Wii U version, running at 60 FPS instead of 59. Hey, it really makes a difference. But what do I want to see in a Switch 2 enhanced version of Mario Kart 8? Ray tracing? 4K? No, none of those. Instead, I want 4-player split screen at 60 frames per second. That's all. Moving on. Finally, we have to talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the games that proved the Switch hardware is outdated and needs to be upgraded as soon as possible. Okay, joking aside, the amount of glitches and performance issues these games have are mainly due to bad optimization from rushed development times. But if the extra horsepower of the Switch 2 helps them run better at a stable 29 FPS, we'll take it. Seriously though, I'm not expecting much from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet running on Switch 2, as it may take more than just powerful hardware to make these games run better. But hey, if Game Freak wants to try improving it on Switch 2, they can be my guest. I'm sure every little teraflop helps in this case. But those are the Nintendo Switch games that I want to see improved on Switch 2, assuming Switch 2 is backwards compatible and is able to enhance those games. But is there anything on this list that I didn't mention that you want to see enhanced on Switch 2? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, bye bye.